They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my lovely co-host.
Thank you, JD. How are you?
Melissa, I'm doing all right.
Good.
Had a pretty hectic day so far, but I imagine it's only going to get better from here.
Yes.
All right. So I'm really excited today to introduce you guys to the host of the Practical Wealth Practical Wealth Show podcast. He's also the founder and financial strategist for Practical Wealth Solutions, and an all-around good guy.
There you go.
Curtis May. Curtis, thank you so much for finding time for us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I'll tell you both things I know.
So when we say things like financial strategist and founder of the Practical Wealth Solutions, those sound really good. But if you could break it down for us, like what does that mean? You know, where did you come from? How'd you get to where you're at? And how can your services help investors, agents, anyone who's financially conscious and aware?
Okay. So that's a good question. So I'll give you long story short, because how I got to here, because I didn't start here. I started in college where I realized the NBA was not looking for 5'11" shooting guards. So I got my insurance license in college, and I was investment license and did mutual funds and all that stuff for about 10, 12 years. And I read a little purple book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I realized what he was doing and what I was doing was different, and I'd always grown up self-employed. So it was, I never got that go get a good job talk. And then he was talking about things that you could control. And so as I worked through it and lived through 3 or 4 crashes, I didn't like being in control. And I've realized that typical financial planning doesn't work. I think it's broken. So the what I call the accumulation theory, buy and hold, dollar cost average, get out of debt, buy term investors difference. They'll talk to, typical advisors will talk to business people like you and tell you should be getting a SEP or a solo 401k. I don't agree with any of that stuff. Okay. So I'm very much the contrarian and if typical planning worked, nobody would ever lose money. If it was, because if it was a science and it nobody would lose money. So my premise is that typical financial advice doesn't work, and I can prove it 7 ways of Sunday. So I'm very excited about that. So we teach something called principles-based planning. Okay. And so principles, Ray Dalio points out in his book, are fundamental truths that are the behavior that get you what you want out of life. So what happens is all successful people operate based on principles. Okay, so to give you an example of that, I'll give you my 5 later on in the talk, is if you've ever read The Richest Man in Babylon, for example, the 7 cures for a lean purse. Those are principles. They have nothing to do with projects. And so what happens is typical advice is designed for employees. So if your listeners are real estate investors, which are small business people, real estate salespeople, which are small business people, you don't need to send your money to some fund manager you never met 1,000 miles away. You need liquidity, use, and control of your capital, because your best investment, my best investment is in my business. If I put $1 in my business and I get back $2, guess what? That's 100% return with no risk, right? Because the smarter I get, if I invest in myself, then as you get smarter, your risk goes down, right? And you can do, so I teach people to position themselves to invest in the number one asset, which is them. And so everything that we do stems from that. So that's why I listen. What we've discovered is instead of playing in what I call the big casino, why don't you position yourself to do more of what you the people that follow me, they want work optional income. They know they can make more money than the S&P, but everybody else tells them they're crazy, right? And I'm telling you, Curtis is saying you're not crazy, okay? And get control of your money and go double down and buy more real estate, or double down and invest in marketing in your business, and that's your best ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with that. Before I found real estate, I was looking for all kinds of different options, and none of them really made sense to me, because it's just giving your money to that person 1,000 miles away that has no vested interest in my success or the success of my family. And so
and it's not designed for cash flow, right? So if you want to become financially free, that's a capability. And so you want to have passive income greater than your investment. So everything about typical advice is sending money away from you for 40 years, never to get it back, because your goal is not to give it back to you. And so and so you don't want to retire. You want to be financially free, which could be done in 10 years or less, or 3 years or 5 years, if have your eyes on the right ball, which is buying cash flowing assets. So that's kind of my message.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
I love that. And if we're looking at new investors or new agents, and what you mentioned was that you preach the principle based investing. So what are those principles that you're teaching?
So here's where I think you need to start. So people always want to know, what should I invest in? So investing is last. Okay, see, most people think the key to growing their money is finding better investments that pay a higher rate of return. So in the typical world, you only do that to take more risk. So if you want to create maximum wealth, you have to create maximum efficiency first. You have to stop giving money away. Okay, you've got to manage cash flow. Okay, you've got to deal with the 5 what we call wealth eroders or wealth transfers: how people pay their mortgages, taxes, how they fund qualified plans, how they pay for kids' educational expenses, how they finance things, major capital purchases. There's more money lost in those 6 things than you'll ever make trying to pick winning investments. So if you want to go, everybody wants to hit a home run, but you need you're trying to fill up this money bucket, but you got holes at the bottom. So what we do is we teach people the first thing you should do is plug the holes, right? Now we flow into the principles, right? So I'll go through them fast, and you can slow me down and break into all of it. I'll give it to you first. So principle number 1, very basic, right? There's nothing new under the sun. I didn't make these up. Kurt has no original thoughts. Just so you know, just start with there, okay? And principle 1, save money. Part of all you earn is yours to keep. Save what? Save 15 to 20% or more of your gross income. Let me define savings: safe, liquid, accessible, guaranteed. Okay, so step 1, save. Step 2, so these are the things that most real estate and business people miss because they're just focused on making money. Step 2 is protection. We call maximum protection. So you have to play defense. See, while you're building the empire, what could happen to you? You could get sick, you could get disabled, you could die, you could get sued, you could have a fire. And see, so that's protection. It's asset protection. That's life insurance. That's property insurance. I had a client, she had $3 million of assets, like apartment buildings, making $100,000 a year passive income. I'm looking at her process we take her through. And says, okay, I got 4 or 5 LLCs. Okay. LLC is not your first line of defense. It's limited liability company. I said, well, look, have you heard of umbrella coverage? So I said, look, we need to get you, I think I had her get $2 million, $2 or $3 million of umbrella coverage. It was like $1,000 a year, because your first line of defense is the insurance company's lawyers. See, most people skip that. That's not sexy, but that's, I tell people, look, y'all are the offensive coordinators. You help people make money. I'm the defensive coordinator. I make sure you don't lose. I'm trying to make sure, Curtis, make sure you get rich and stay rich, right? The third principle is legacy. You want to be able to, it says in the Bible, wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children's children. So I want you to leave a legacy of wealth and wisdom. That's our third principle. The fourth principle is liquidity. Most people are way too illiquid. We want people to have 6 to 12 months of their income, not sitting in cash, but cash equivalent. So our first strategy is something called infinite banking. So we store that cash in properly structured dividend paying whole life. That's a whole other podcast. And but that's where we store our liquidity, so you can access money without having to liquidate your capital. And then the fifth principle is velocity, right, of money versus accumulation. So the Burr method in real estate is velocity, right? But it's just the principle of moving money in and out of assets and turning it over, right? And so you're instead of the accumulation theory, buy and hold, dollar cost average, get out of debt, buy term investor difference, I teach the velocity method, which is velocity, cash flow, leverage, saving money, and basically doing what banks and institutions do with money, which works in personal finance, by the way. And those are the 5 principles. So now what happens is what y'all will call investing, or most of your people are in principle 5, right? But even if they're beginning, I don't care if they're making $1 million, $2 million. I got clients that do that. And when I walk them through this exercise, there's still gaps in their plan. And so we fill the gaps up and through a process. So that's what we do. So that comes before investing, is setting your foundation so that you don't go backwards, so that you're protected. So because the plan should work no matter what. You can't have a plan that only works when the sun is out. What I'll say about that.
Well, I'm wondering, that sounds great for somebody in my position where we've already started investing. We have some liquid assets. We have some money that we already have working for us, and we have all these things kind of already established. But how do these principles work for somebody who's just now getting into? They're tired of working the 9 to 5. They want to, they read Rich Dad Poor Dad. They want to start, and now we're trying to get them to save, the 15 to 20% of their income when they're struggling to pay their bills right out the gate. What do you say to those?
It doesn't matter. The principles are the principles. Like part of all you earn is yours to keep, is a decision. Mm-hmm. Okay. You've got to decide that Tony Robbins says, how much of your money that you earn are you going to keep? That's a decision. Now, most people can't do that because they don't manage cash flow. So we teach a principle of cash flow mapping, because what they're doing is this is actually where I start people with, because you listen, if you can't save, you can't get into velocity, because your number one asset is your ability to earn income. So do you track your income and your outgo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And most people don't. And then what they're doing is they're budgeting, which we don't agree with, because budgeting or looking at your P&L if you're in business, that's looking at history, right? You're looking at what happened last month. We teach people to forecast, you want to assign, when the money hits your account, you have to assign it a job, right? So I teach people to create. First thing we're going to do is, I don't care if it's not 15%. I don't care if it's 3% or 5%. I got to exercise that savings muscle, right? And so I help people create, we call it creating a wealth capture or wealth coordination account. So if let's say you're still working a job, then you need to create an account. Let's use a round number, 100,000. I would have them go, okay, look, can you save 15,000 is what I want you to save. And then I would divide that by 26, which is like 5 something a pay. Could you do that? Oh, no, I can't do that. All right. How much could you do? Oh, I could do 200. Great. Do that. Okay. I don't care if you work at McDonald's. It doesn't matter what you make, because all your people want to go out and they think they need to make money because they're broke. No, you got to figure out why you don't have any savings out of the money you already make. Why can't you save any damn money? Okay. That's because more money, if you don't manage your cash flow, you're just going to be at a higher level of broke. If you don't take it, because if you can't control your income statement, your budget, somebody will always control you. So you have to control that first, right? And so we get into the nitty gritty of, I could go into it, but basically you got to pay yourself, because if you can pay yourself 10, 15, 20% of your income saving, I don't care what you do the rest of it, right? Because that's your money that you're focused on. You see, that's your money that you're focused on. That will give you the capital for down payment, the capital for coaching, for marketing. You have to start somewhere. Otherwise, you're just going into debt, which I'm fine with debt, long as you're using debt to buy something that makes money to pay the debt off. Like you got to use debt not to buy stuff, to buy a car, and all kinds of dumb stuff. You want to borrow money to make money. And so I'm kind of lively, as you can see, I get kind of high, but you want to be able to be a good steward of your resources. So it goes back to, saving. It doesn't matter what you make. It's the savings to decision.
But Curtis, I don't think you understand, because I have kids and I have bills, and my mom got sick, and I have a dog that needs to go to the vet. What about that?
I don't care.
Okay.
I mean, you see, because all right, you only have two things you can do. You can spend less or you can make more. Right. So you can't get blood from a turnip, right? So you can't, you can't scrimp your way to financial freedom. So you've got to, now there's probably a lot of stuff. So for example, let me show you why the money's already there. You just are not paying attention to it. I'll ask people, well, do you get a tax refund? Oh yeah, I got $4,000. Well, let's look at your tax statement. See where it says taxes owed $3,000, taxes paid $7,000, refund $4,000. Your W-4 is filled out wrong. According to IRS, 80% of most people's W-4 is filled out incorrectly. I had a client today. He's like, I want to invest in real estate. Okay, well, dude, you're putting 20 grand into I'm not saying not do this, but you're putting 20 grand into your qualified plan, and you're trying to work on your third property, but you're tying a bunch of money up where you don't have access to it. I said, they're matching you to 7,000. Why don't you drop what I try not to tell people that. I said, let's look at what's the highest, best use of your money. You don't have enough liquidity and you're tying this money up. He said, well, could I maybe lower it to the match and then move the money over to in a more liquid state? Yeah, doesn't sound like a bad idea, And so you just have to step back. You have to look at your numbers, right? You have to look at, I got every cable channel and Hulu and, Netflix and Hand and Stone and all that stuff, right? You have to, something's got to give, because you shouldn't be watching that much damn TV. You need to read a book on how to make some daggone money. Listen to your podcast, right? You got to focus on that. And so I go there with people. I said, look, sometimes you meet Coach Curtis. Coach Curtis is not always a nice man, because Curtis is going to tell you like it is. I'm not going to blow smoke over your butt. And so it doesn't matter. So, because you can make it, I wouldn't say this one-on-one to somebody, but in this forum, you can make excuses or you can make money, but you can't do both, right? And so you have to make a decision that I don't want to be poor. Because if you keep coming with excuses of why you can't save money, then okay, that's your reality. And Jim Rohn says most people don't have a money problem, they have a philosophy problem, right? And so there's only 4 things you can do with $1: spend it, save it, invest, or give it away. So the order in which you do that is your philosophy. So if you think I'm going to work, I got to pay bills, that means everybody else is more important than you, then okay, that's your reality, okay? Whereas if rich people think it's not even because they're rich, but they're rich because they do this. When they get money, money's a tool to make more money. So before they want to go buy something, they said, how can I put this money back out there so it can bring back some friends? Okay. And you have to learn to think that way. That's why your number one asset is you. You have to invest in, this doesn't cost money, your mindset, what you watch, listen to, and read, your skill set. So like your realtors out there, they have to learn the skill sets. The 3 skill sets in business are marketing, sales, right? Team building, right? Those are things that move the needle. So they don't cost money, but that's going to your classes, reading a book. Every time I invest probably 5 figures in personal development, but I just got back from a $5,000 mastermind trip in Cancun, but I already see where that's going to add 6 figures to our revenue this year, because I've expanded my vision, my capability, and what's possible. And so you have to invest in yourself. And so that does, people want to throw money at stuff. Investing is about becoming something. It's not about buying something, right? And so it's be, become, then do, then have. Everybody just wants to tell me what to do so I can have. but you are not the person that can sustain that. So you have to work on being that person, right? And so mindset, skill set, and your network. Who do you know? Who knows you? So that's what, see, if your money's tight, then you don't make enough money. Why don't you make enough money? Because you don't have any skills to command more money. I hate to tell you, okay? And so, because money is a result of creating value in the marketplace. So you have to learn more skills so you can charge more for what you do, but you still can't just, I need more money. You have to figure out a way to, to find money out of the money you have coming in.
So with all of that, when I
was called a Curtis rant on my show. That was a Curtis rant. So.
That Curtis rant, what it says to me is that your results don't give a shit about your excuses, and you can always find an excuse to figure out how not to do something or why it's not working. But when it comes down to it, if it's important to you, you're going to make whatever sacrifices necessary to achieve the goal and follow the plan that you're headed down.
Yes, people do what they want to do. This is what I've realized. So if it's important, you'll figure out how to do it. And you just haven't made that important. You haven't made becoming financially free important yet. Absolutely. So, when you hit that point, you have a chief definite aim to say and think and grow rich, you'll figure it out. But until then, you just stay with your broke friends and let all commiserate together.
Play the lottery.
Right.
Curtis, I think there's a lot of valuable things that you said there, and I hope that people go back and re-listen to this and really internalize some of that stuff. But if some of our listeners wanted to find out more about you, find out where they can listen to your podcast and find out more about the practicalwealthsolutions.net and that kind of stuff, where else can we send them?
So it's practicalwealth.net. So I would actually go to Practical Wealth Show, iTunes, wherever, and just, you can hear more of the madness that is Curtis, or look up the same thing on the YouTube channel. I would also, so when we talk about velocity, if your listeners will text Be the Bank, all one word, all caps, to 55444, then we'll send them a free report we have called Creating Wealth Using the Velocity of Money. And so what I want people to do is understand the concept of velocity, start to embrace that, and then work. And we'll send them some more stuff once you're on our email list of really understand this idea. If you go to our website, we break down our process and principles-based planning, what it is, the 5 principles of personal finance I mentioned here. And then the second, principles drive strategy. So some of your listeners have heard of something called infinite banking. That's what I specialize in. I've just put a financial planning wrapper around it. Okay. Because I think people skip steps if they just focus on that one aspect of it, and they don't go into the 5 principles, where that's part of the 5 principles. And we just do that next, get you fixed up. And now let me show you where to store this capital and how to use it to buy even more real estate.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate your time today, Curtis. I hope our listeners get over there. Be the Bank. Text it to 55444, all caps. Thanks for your time, Curtis.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Yes, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.